Hello, my name is Vin. So bicycles have been around since the 1800s. They were a new modern vehicle used in transportation and recreation. Bicycles still exist today with the rivaling modern four-wheeled car. These two entities coexist today without much conflict. However, one thing stands in between these two: the bike path, also synonymous with the bike lane, which is what most drivers see today as the little white line onto the right side of the road that separates the right lane to the curb. And my claim is that bikeways negatively affect safety among car and bicycle users. My first claim for that is bikeways force bicyclists closer to the curbs, which is the main area that is the blind spot to most drivers, which possess an inherent danger to bicyclists. Secondly, bikeways do not play a significant role in actually preventing car-bike collisions. Now back on my first point, with bikeways forcing bicyclists closer to the curb, which possess inherent danger to the bicyclist, is that the area between the curb on the right lane is obviously not always the easiest spot to see on the road. Therefore, that means that drivers have to look out more than just the front of the road. They have to look out on the right side of the road, which means that when a driver is driving straight down the road and wants to turn a right turn, most drivers don't look in the right blind spot to check for the bicyclist. And I have the American Association of the State Highway and Transportation Officials in their guide for the development of bicycle facilities said, bicycle lanes tend to complicate both bicycle and motor vehicle turning movements and at intersections. Because they encourage bicyclists to keep right and motorists to keep to the left, both operates are somewhat discouraged and from merging in advance of turns. So what that means is that when bicyclists use the bike lane in order to turn or in order to overtake a car on the right side of the road, most bicyclists hesitate to overtake the car on the left side of the road, which pose them in a greater danger of collision by attempting to pass on the right, which the law clearly states that all bicyclists are able to overtake cars on the left or move as far away from the bike lane as they wish in order to avoid any debris or any other side of the road. And secondly, in my first claim, I'd have to say that the bikeway forces bicyclists to stay in the bicycle lane for all car-to-bike interactions. The bicycle lane typically generates a safety barrier for all bicyclists and for cars as well, because any bicyclist knows that the bicycle lane is a point where most drivers will avoid and they have room to stay in the car. However, this also leads them to be hesitant from leaving the bicycle lane in the event they were to turn or merge into the left lane or to continue going straight. And in Bicycle Transportation, written by John Forrester, an industrial engineer, he said that the bikeway system compels the cyclist to overtake on the right, but provides no protection against the hazards of right-turning motorists, which is the same point that cars obviously do not take the time to check and see if bicyclists are overtaking them on the right side, which are the main danger of taking the bikeway, which is in between the car and the curb. Okay. Now moving on to my second claim, bikeways do not play a significant role in preventing car-bike collisions. By this, I mean that a majority of car-bike collisions occur mainly through crossing or turning during traffic interactions rather than the absence of the bikeway. And secondly, bikeways act only as a boundary which fail to protect bicycles from being hit by a car. So, in the bicycle transportation, John Forster also wrote that crossing and turning relationships during traffic maneuvers are involved in over 95% of car-bike collisions, while failure of such separation can be achieved is the cause of less than 5% of the bike collision, which basically means that car-bike collisions do actually play little role through the separation of the bike lane and only occurs more through the act of turning or trying to intersect cars through the street. In conclusion, I'd have to say that bikeways, through the evidence that I've given tonight, bikeways negatively affect safety among car and bicycle users through the fact that bikeways force bicyclists closer to the curb, which possess inherent danger to the bicyclist, and bikeways do not play a significant role in preventing car-bike collisions. Thank you.
All right, Vin, you clearly state your claim. You've got a preview of what the supporting points are going to be. There are only 2 of them. It seemed a little awkward that you put an explanation of the first point in the preview of those points, especially since you spend so much time explaining it again once you get to that first point. And it does get a little repetitive and complicated. I know you're trying to clarify for us, but I think you're overdoing the clarification there on that first point. And you had 2 good quotes that dealt with that particular point. What was missing is some data that suggested that, that's where most of the fatalities or injuries occur, because you are talking about risk of collisions there and the potential dangers, and I think you needed a little bit more information like that. On the second point, that's where you did have a statistical piece of information that talked about where the accidents seem to be happening more, and so that's really an argument that says the bike lanes aren't doing any protection, but that data there seemed like it would fit better with that first point, that this is where this is the key danger point that's going on there. I never heard any data about how many bicyclists are ever hurt or injured or killed when riding in bike lanes, so I don't know that you're getting the point across in as effective a way as it could be. It sounds like an interesting engineering problem, but I'm not exactly sure that it's a practical problem. In other words, we're back to the issue of, how problematic is it? From a theoretical point of view, it's definitely problematic. How about from a practical and policy point of view, how problematic is it? And then the other thing that basically it sounds like in the long run it's an argument that says we don't really need the bike lanes, and I think you could simplify your claim a little bit and suggest that the bike lanes actually are unnecessary. If their goal is to provide protection for bike riders, they fail to do that because of these 2 reasons, and that I think might be a more appropriate way of addressing this. Or you could argue that the bike lanes need to be modified in some way to be able to do that, and I think that would be another way that the claim could develop a little bit more. All right, I feel a little bit like I'm doing the same thing you did on the first point, and that is over-explaining the thing that I'm talking about on that first point. I think you did a pretty good job, except for some hesitation while you're talking, and like I said, getting lost on that first point. I like the summary at the end. I think that helps clarify all the points that you're trying to make. All right, thank you.